Okay, welcome to the spring semester in Neurographica Americas. Today we are having a Kabbalistic Neurographica session. We're having a session on the Seder, which is an integral part of the Passover holiday. And I will explain certain things about the Seder that we can use as resources in our life, as resources that we can bring in some other stuff in our life. For those of you who don't know me, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Lana Shalomov. I am a certified Neurographica coach and instructor. I am a part of the Neurographica America School. I am in charge. I'm the director of the Judaic and Kabbalistic studies at Neurographica Americas. And I welcome you. I'm going to transfer the video, and then we're going to draw. Okay, I need more light. Okay, let me make sure that I can fully see everything. Okay, excellent. Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay. So let's discuss what we are doing today. I would like to explain to you, to draw you the schematic explanation of what we're doing today, and then we can start drawing, okay? So the Passover Seder, it's called a Seder because the word Seder means order in Hebrew. And the Passover Seder is a way that one brings in something that everybody follow, a certain ritual that everybody follow on the first, and in the diaspora, meaning outside of the land of Israel, they also do it for 2 days. So in Israel, they only do it one night, the first night of Passover. In the diaspora, they do it for 2 nights, the first 2 nights. And it's a certain ritual, and it has to go in a specific order, and that has a very symbolic and Kabbalistic meaning. So the Passover Seder, it is a known time, the middle of the month of the Nisan. The month of the Nisan is a Jewish month. It's the very first month. This is when the Jewish year starts. There are 4 Jewish New Years in Judaism. And one of them is Rosh Hashanah. Everybody know about it. That one probably, it usually happens in the fall. Another one, we actually did a work on it during the conference. It's called Tu B'Shvat. It's a new year of the trees. It's a new year of the land. The third one is what we're doing now. It's a new year that starts in Nisan, the month of Nisan. It is astrologically known to be one of the powerful months when all the beginning starts. People can start doing something completely new, and they will be quite successful. And specifically, this refers to the middle of the month, which is exactly when the Passover starts, the 15th of the Nisan, because we know the Jewish month is a lunar month. So the 15th of the Nisan is exactly the middle of the month when the moon is whole, is full. And that's exactly the time when it is known astrologically to have the most cosmic effect on everything that a human being can plan and can try to bring in. And it's actually known as a rebirthing. If you remember, I don't know if I did it in the Neurographica Americas class, but I did a session on rebirthing, going through the matrices of Stanislav Grof, who came up with a brilliant idea of rebirthing, that a person can go through rebirthing and thus kind of reinvent and bring in lots more resources and also get rid of a lot of inhibitions that were created during the actual birth. And the same thing happens here. During the Seder night, what happens is that cosmically, a lot of energy is drawn to this night. And that's why it is so important to go through the certain order, because the order, as we will go through it now, has a specific meaning when it comes to Kabbalistic map, Kabbalistic, so to say, guide to how the world exists. So right now I'm going to explain to you. So we have the elements of the Seder are elements of the Seder. Okay, I will write for you here and I will explain to you in the middle of the paper. So first we have 3 matzah. This is very important to put matzah. 3 matzah goes on the table. And then we have a round plate. It's called a Seder plate. It's a Seder plate. And it contains 6 objects, okay? It contains 6 objects, okay? Very, very simple object. They're food objects. The plate holds 6 food objects. One is a bone. It can be like an animal cooked bone, like a chicken bone or a lamb bone, lamb shank. Could be a beef bone. In different Jewish communities, they have different customs and traditions about what kind of bone, what kind of animal do they use for this. During the time when we had the temple, the lamb bone was the one that's used, because lamb was originally the animal that was slaughtered on the night before the 15th of Nisan, which was the 15th of Nisan. Why is it significant? Because it was a day when the ancient Hebrews, when the Jewish nation exited the Egypt, and they left the slavery behind. And they exited. We talked more about it last time and the time before when we talked about the miracles. They exited and they started the new life. And that's why it's so symbolic, it's so mystic, and it's so cosmic. That this is a time to start something completely new. And not just anything new. Start your life new. And that's why it's so important if we go through all the items on the table and see how they relate Kabbalistically. And what's more important is that we remember, you can take that, you can write down exactly what I'm telling you, and you can take it to the Seder table when you have a Seder. It's very important to join the Seder, like I said, because it's important to go through this order of rebirthing. And every time you go through each subject, each part of the Seder, you look at the explanations and you bring in that energy to yourself. So we have a bone, then we have an egg, then we have bitter herb, okay, something bitter. You can use like bitter kind of lettuce, or you can use also, a lot of people use horseradish, something extremely bitter, right? Then we have charoset. Charoset is a special mixture of nuts, apples, and wine. People also add dried fruits to it. Like I said before, every Jewish community have their own traditions associated with this food. Even within where I'm come from, I'm a part of the mountain Jews, the Jews who lived in the Caucasus Mountain, which is now considered to be the former FSU, part of Russia and Azerbaijan. Even though we have like a similar, almost the same recipe for charoset, I want to tell you, like the way my family made it and the way, let's say, my cousins, my aunt makes it is different. You know, so charoset, you can look up so many recipes online. Chabad.org, H.com. I would give you just 2 main portals online where you can look up. It's amazing. It's delicious. I personally love eating charoset, just putting on top of the matzah. It's like a great vegan alternative to like cream cheese or or any other spread. It's a beautiful, beautiful, delicious spread. So charoset. The next is karpas. Karpas means vegetable. So karpas is any kind of vegetable. Usually it's green, and that makes a significance, like it can be cilantro. A lot of people enjoy eating a potato also. And the last item is called chazeret. Chazeret is a sandwich that is made using lettuce, maror, which is horseradish, or something as strong and bitter as a horseradish, and matzah. You're supposed to make a sandwich. It's a famous known fact. You make a sandwich and you eat it. And this is the main element, the main objects of the Seder. Now let's talk about it. And while talking, I will also show you how we can draw. I enjoy using my circular. If you enjoy using your circular, you're welcome to take it out. If you don't, that's fine too. You can just make a round circle with your marker. You can use your pencil to do a circle and then go over with your marker. Any way you choose to, you're welcome to. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to show you first schematically, okay, in a smaller scale. When we're going to use our real paper, we're going to draw on a big scale on the paper. But for now, we're using the smaller scale, okay? First, we'll go 3 matzahs, okay? Okay, first we're going to draw 3 matzahs. Like this. They go inside each other, okay? And now, let's discuss something else. Now, we have how many items here? We have 6 objects here, right? This is 6. We have 3 matzahs here, and this is 1 plate. Altogether, what do we have? We have altogether 10 items. Okay, now, pop quiz here. I think you know well enough at this point, Kabbalah, to let me know, what does the number 10 tell you about? That's right. It's something that we discuss in every session, the 10 sfirot. So the 10 objects on the table are really the 10 sfirot. Okay, so every time we go through the order, every time we're going to go through the sub-objects, we will be talking about sfirot. So I think now it makes a little more sense to you what the word rebirthing means here. And what do I mean by when I say rebirthing? Rebirthing here means, rebirthing here refers to going through the order of the sfirot, of the Kabbalistic sfirot, which is how the world was created, which is how everything in this world is created, including every single item, whether it's a breathing item or inanimate object. Everything is created using the 10 orders of the sfirot, and we will go through them now. The 10 order of the sfirot, if you remember I usually draw it every single time. I can draw it for you quickly now. So the first order we'll go to, it's always, there is 1 on top, it's called Keter. Then we have 2 round ones. It's called Chokhmah and Bina. Then we have a Da'at, and Da'at usually associated with a Keter. So Chokhmah and Bina together kind of have a baby, and it's called Da'at. What it really means, that's a joke. What I really mean is that Chokhmah and Bina together, when they unify, when they combine, they yield a 3rd element called Da'at. Da'at means wisdom. Chokhmah means knowledge. Bina means deep understanding, deep global understanding of something. And together, that means wisdom. When you combine knowledge with deeper meaning and understanding. Then we have the next set of sfirot. It's called so these 3 sfirot, Chokhmah, Bina, and Da'at, are the supernatural sfirot. They're above. They're very spiritual. That's not something we can easily access. But if you get on a certain spiritual level, you will be able to connect to them and use them as a resource in your life. They're called supernatural resources. The next set of sfirot, we are already entering the physical realm. And it's the sfirot of, it's called chesed. Chesed means kindness. And then the next sfirah is gvura. Gvura means boundaries. I'm going through them quickly now. I will explain them in details when we're going to put them schematically on our picture. And what chesed, meaning kindness, and gvura, boundaries, bring together, they bring something called Tiferet. Tiferet is beauty, eternal beauty. So all the Sfirot is always connected to each other. Okay, I just want to draw them quickly. Then the next set of Sfirot is called Netzach, which means victory, endurance. Od means like somebody who is very sophisticated, like sophistication. Netzach, Od, and the last yielding Sfirot in this triangle is called Yisod. Yisod means foundation. When you combine victory, endurance with sophistication, with knowing what is the right thing to do, and yet, doing it in a way where it's pleasant for everybody, you bring in Yisod, which means foundation. And then the last Sfirah is called Malchut. Malchut means kingdom. All of this Sfirot together, they bring the kingdom, meaning they bring sovereignty, meaning they bring kingdom. We will explain that further today. Kingdom can mean different things to many different people. It can mean, ruler of the world. How some people, you can ask somebody, do you want to be the king? And they will be like, sure, I do. But kingdom can mean many different things. And in this case today, kingdom can mean being able to be selfless, because a king is somebody who serves the nation. So that's something to which we will get today. So this is a regular schematic picture of the Sfirot, the 10 Sfirot that we know about. What we're going to do today is we're going to draw 3 circles first, and that's going to be our outer Sfirot, and I will tell you more about it, why and how it relates. I will be explaining to you on this paper, but we'll also be drawing on the real paper, and I suggest you do the same thing. I'm taking my circular, and I will be making 3 giant circles, okay? Make the circles as big as you want. Try to go, the biggest circle should take the biggest kind of, it should be the biggest on your paper as well. It takes a little time to do it with a circular. I actually do want to bring in a big circle here, so I want to make sure that I am drawing the biggest circle possible on my paper, okay? So that's circle number 1. We're going to draw circle number 2. And we're going to draw circle number 3, okay? Okay, now, okay, 1, 2, 3 circles, exactly how in my explanation. Now, we will draw one more circle, and that would be the Seder plate itself, which, as we said, was one of the objects. It's one of the Sfirot. Now, even though we will draw, so the first I will be explaining to you now. I want you to start drawing, and then by explanation, one by one, we will start bringing resources into our picture and into our life, okay? So we have 1, 2, 3 circles. The first circle is, wait, let me tell you first. So this is the Seder plate, and on the Seder plate, we have 6 more circles inside, located like this. We will be building 2 triangles inside, okay? Okay, so it's Sfirot like this, and it's actually like this, okay? Do not draw the lines in your picture yet. I just want you, I only did it for schematic purposes. Just put 3 circles like this and 3 circles like this, okay? That's what I am going to do as well. And then we can start our picture, and we can start our explanation. And together with the explanation, we will start bringing the resources and making a beautiful neurographic picture. So this is going to be my Seder plate. And now I'm urging you to do so that you can put the 6 circles nicely in your picture. Right. I'm going to divide the circle in half. And now it's going to be easier for me to concentrate and understand how I draw, how I can draw the smaller circles. The circles inside, okay, go one on the right side, one on the left side, and then one on top. And the same thing goes on the bottom. I do want you to draw it in the specific order, okay? One on the right side, one on the left side, and one in the middle. Okay. Now we're done with, we drew the schematic, the scheme of our Seder plate with the 3 matzahs. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take you through the actual explanation of what is it that's happening. What are we going to do with the circles? What are we going to do with all this, resources, okay? So first, what I would like for you to do is to make a topic. What is the topic which you're drawing today? Come up with a topic. Come up with what is it that you're focusing on today? What's your goal? I like to call it what's your quest, because that's more reflective of what we're really doing here. We're not just drawing a goal, but we're going on a quest. We're going on a quest to conquer something, to find something, to bring something into our life. And that's a topic of your picture. It's very important when we draw a neurographic drawing. It's not just an art. It's also a psychological, a coaching tool. So when we draw, we're looking for something. We're looking to bring in necessary resources in our life. As such, we need to focus and narrow down what is it that we need in life. So for that, we're going to put a topic. For example, my topic for today will be, as it is known for Passover, everybody completely clean out their house. They go through, rearranging everything and bringing everything together and making, that's right, there is that word, order, okay? Which means Seder, right? Seder means order. And that's what everybody's doing. Everybody's going through their physical spaces and bringing order to their house, to their belongings, organizing everything. And that's my goal. My goal is not just to clean the house, like get rid of dirt and everything. And usually people get rid of chametz, and that has a very symbolic, Kabbalistic deep meaning. Chametz means something that's made using yeast. Yeast, as you know, when you put it in the dough becomes nice and puffy. In this case, we say when we rebirth, we want to get born as who we are, without unnecessary puffiness added by life. We discussed it during the holiday of Purim. We always wear masks in life, right? We constantly wear masks. We wear a mask. I'm a mother. I'm a sister. I am a teacher. I am a friend to somebody. We constantly wear different masks. And sometimes we want to take off the mask because that's who we really are. And that's what this rebirthing is all about. It's about being born in a way where you're not puffed up, where you're not bringing an extra ingredient like yeast to puff something up, to make the bread look nice and puff and soft and delicious, right? Because that's what bread is, right? It's comfort food. It's one of the basic comfort foods. That's why bread, it has a very high significance in Jewish philosophy. When we eat bread, we say a very special blessing. And afterwards, we say an extremely special blessing where we thank God for everything, because bread is a basic, it comes from grain. Grain takes a long period of time to actually come from earth. You put a little seed and you go through it. So bread is very important. We are bread. We are so complex, right? Bread takes a whole complicated, a whole complicated process. We are bread. We are very complicated. We have a lot of complex processes inside us. And the way we were born, the way we came into this world, also is very complicated. Yet we were born something amazing, like a little baby that's naked. There's no clothes covering it. It's still very innocent. And the neshama, which means soul in Hebrew, is very basic and alive in that person, in that little baby who doesn't know how to talk. And that's significant of the fact that The baby doesn't know the waves of the world yet. The baby doesn't know that the baby can become soft and puffy and delicious by adding yeast, right? By adding something, some outside ingredient to make it nice looking, to make it good for others, but not necessarily good for you, right? So we are getting rid of chametz. We're getting rid of anything that contains yeast. And we're concentrating on the matzah. Matzah is a flat bread. We will be discussing this further because matzah is our, the first three sfirot that are significant. Now, I would like to get back to my topic. So my personal goal, my personal quest is to bring organization. I actually did this class yesterday. I do an in-person offline class every Wednesday in Brooklyn in Russian. And I did this class in Russian and I did exactly the same topic. And you can do the same thing. You can use the same topic and draw a few pictures. That's called drawing a case. Having a case, meaning sometimes the topic, the quest is so big that you cannot possibly cover it with just one picture. And that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a Seder or an organization. And that's organization everywhere. In my house, in my physical space, in my mind, in my professional space, like in my mind, how I'm organizing everything professionally. And spiritually, how am I organizing my approach to God? And also organizing, my relationships with other people. I would say that would be socially, right, or emotionally also. So through all the four worlds, there are four Kabbalistic worlds that refers to each of this, to each of the planes. And I'm going to now put 2 minutes and we're going to do it together. I'm putting 2 minutes on my timer. And based on my topic, I'm going to write down everything that comes to my mind. That's called a thought process or a thought flow. Every single thought, even though has nothing to do with the word organization or order or a Seder, I'm going to write it down because whether I want it or not, subconsciously, unconsciously, and consciously, I'm completely connected to what I need to do because this topic is a part of who I am in the inside. This is a part of my soul, why my soul came to this world. It's a part of the bigger mission in life. So I'm going to put 2 minutes, like I said, on my timer, and I'm inviting you to do the same thing. I usually give 2 minutes and then I give an extra 1 minute if you need to finish your thought process, okay? 2 minutes is to start, let it go. Let your thought flow go. You will see I'm doing it openly so you can see what I'm writing down because you would be able to see this case that I wouldn't just be writing down, organize a bookcase, organize the toys. I will also be writing down joy, happiness, freedom, something that may not necessarily relate to, but some emotional, descriptions of how I relate to these words. And that's an important thing to write. Okay, 2 minutes started. Let's go. Okay, 2 minutes passed. I'm giving everybody, including myself, an extra minute to just finish the thought process, the thought flow. Okay, the extra minute passed. We're going to stop. And, okay. What I'm going to do next is we're going to look at all the points that we wrote down and choose 7 to 9 most important points that you would like to specifically focus on. And this will be the resources that we will bring in. This will be the point we will focus on when we draw the resources in our picture, okay? So I will give you one example. I'm going through and I'm doing clean house. It's very important for me to have a clean house constantly. And I'm thinking, how can I do that? And I realize I need help, you know? And I'm thinking, and I wrote down here, it was actually my thought process, cleaning lady, you know, I need to find a good cleaning lady and to find a way to make sure that she comes regularly and helps me out, because it's very hard for me to do it on my own. You know, the kids help around, but it's not enough. So cleaning lady, and I'm going to actually add here, you know, now that I said kids would be helping me out. I think it's so important for them to start getting involved. They help me out a little bit. I want them to get involved more. I want them to be an integral part of the organizing of the household. So that later on when they grow up, or even now, and this is connected to my other point, I want them to be more organized. I want them to get up and to go to school on time on their own, you know, without me having to wake them up or without me having to tell them. And that's connected to my next point, which I will be doing here, is organizing time-wise here. The word time is here. So that's number 2. So I'm just writing numbers here just for myself. I would like to organize, to have a more organized praying time for myself. I used to do it at one point, and now it's a little more hectic, and it's hard because I love to do it at the same time. It gives me that necessary concentration, and that's something I look forward to, that this is my time to pray. That's my personal dialogue with God. Time when I talk one-on-one with God per private audience, and I would like to focus on that. And I guess that's related to time. You see how everything is connected together? Now, for the cleaning lady, I also would like to have a cleaning lady means extra expense, which means I'm not looking at it as an expense per se, but I am looking at it as extra investment that I need to bring it into my house, which means the next resource that I actually did not bring in here, but I did bring in yesterday. But I will add. You're welcome to add if you feel like when you bring out the point, you feel there's something important that you need to add. And I'm going to write the word money. Money is an important process that I would like to add, and that will be 4. Interesting that yesterday I had a lot of similar points. Today I'm going a little further. I'm going a little deeper. So I started thinking about who I am, exactly what I was talking to you before. You know how the door adds unnecessary puffiness to the human being, to the bread, and how we're trying to get rid of the chametz, of the yeastiness, of the puffiness in ourselves. And psychologically, that actually refers to ego. Ego, exactly as Freud has explored it, and all of his followers later on in the development of psychology. But ego is that specific word when we refer to being puffed up, something that we feel, we need to have in order to feel significant in the world. So I actually went further today. I started thinking that, I want to relieve first I wanted to build necessary boundaries, like organizing, time frame, going to sleep on time, waking up on time, going to places on time, doing everything on time. This is so important to me. And the next thing I brought in was motivation. I need to bring up my motivation to do things. Because sometimes I don't do things because I don't feel like I have enough motivation for it. And then I just don't feel like doing it. And, that's one thing you learn being as a teacher. In order to get somebody to do something, you need to motivate them. And that's important. If I'm working on myself, I need to motivate myself. And the next point, the reason I'm explaining all of this, by the way, is for you to understand how I'm going about taking one topic and then organizing my thoughts and bringing it together and coming up with broke down goals, so to say, little tiny goals that you need to work on in order to achieve that big one goal. The next thing I'm going to, after the motivation, I started thinking about who am I, bringing in the boundaries, but yet taking away the unnecessary restraints. Then I realized the unnecessary restraints are the inhibitions, that I have in myself. And I would like to take that out so I can be free of inhibitions, not of necessary boundaries in order to be more organized, but rather get rid of unnecessary inhibitions, so you become free and you bring your inner self more readily into the session, into your life. So that's inner self. And then I wrote, who am I? And then I realized that I would like to think about more, what am I doing? Who am I? Why am I in this world? So that's talking about inner mission, right? That's bigger question of my mission in life. And then automatically it brought me to my professional life and increasing my professional being, because I do believe it's a part of my mission to be bringing, Neurographica together with the teachings of the Kabbalah and to the wider population. Hi, Aviva, I see your note. It's so nice to see you in here. I'm very happy. I'm going to say hello to you because you said you only came in for a little bit. Please watch the video. I'm saying amazing stuff that I think you would enjoy. And wishing you Shabbat Shalom for tomorrow. And of course, Chag Kosher V'Sameach, a beautiful, beautiful Passover Pesach to you. So these are my points. I'm going to add more numbers. Okay. My personal mission, I'm going to make that a separate point. And number 7 will be my professional life. What are we doing now? What we're doing now is we are going to start bringing this points into our picture and start utilizing the points as resources, connecting them to this resources that we will be talking deeply about now, using the Kabbalistic Sfirot, because each item that we mentioned, each specific item at the Seder table is specifically connected to the Kabbalistic source. And by going through each order, we're bringing in the rebirthing as it is seen through Kabbalistic sources through the 10 Sfirot. Okay? Now, I would like to take you the next point through the next few minutes. Before we start going deeper into our picture and bringing in the resources and the necessary goals in our picture, I would like to concentrate on meditation. Let's ground ourselves. Let's bring ourselves down. Let's meditate so we can fully focus on that specific point that we talked about, the inner self. Who are we deep inside? There is something inside of us that knows answers to all the possible questions in this world. It knows the past and the future. It's a transcendental part of who we are. It's called our soul, our neshama in Hebrew it means. And what we're doing when we meditate is we connect to our soul. And when we meditate, our soul connects back to us and it tells us something that we may not readily hear openly, because it's something that's called subconscious or even unconscious. But it will, by being in the quietness, by being in the stillness, by meditating, it would inevitably enter first our mental. Remember we talked about the 4 worlds, right? First our mental world, then enter our from the spiritual, because that's what it is now. It enters into our mental world and our emotional, and then of course inevitably it will enter our physical space, and that's the reason why we meditate before we start the drawing. Okay, this is a schematic picture of what we drew, but we didn't start. You can draw any picture you want to until you start adding neurographic lines to it and adding necessary psychological resources and spiritual resources. This picture will not start working, so to say. The mystery, the magic, I like to call it the magic of neurographic art, the magic does not start. So in order to bring in the magic, let's connect to ourselves. Let's close our eyes, put your feet down. Put your feet down flatly on the floor. And let's imagine that we're not in the house, but we're actually outside in the perfect setting, beautiful weather. If it's too hot, you can have a little breeze that will take you away, that can sway you from side to side. But with your feet, you feel the earth the way it was invented, the earth the way to bring in energy and resources to this world, the earth that gives life to everything in this world, including us, because as it says in the Torah, in the Bible, we come from the earth and we go to the earth. And the first human being, the Adam, was made by taking pieces of the earth from different parts of the world and forming it together and making something that we refer to as dua. That's exactly what it was. The first human being was made like a dua, and that's why making a dua, making a bread, has a very high spiritual significance. And we refer to it as something that we emulate, so to say, God. There is a philosophy that says in many ways what we do in life, we emulate God, because that's our goal, right? To be amazing, to be fulfilling of God's mission in this world. Let's breathe in deeply. Breathe in through your nose, release through your mouth. When breathing, release all the inhibitions, all the restraints in your body. Try to relax and start feeling the energy of the nature around you. Nature as it was created by God to be enjoyed by a human being. Our feet touch the ground and we feel the earth bringing our feet in and connecting together, the earth and the feet connecting. We feel the earth energy entering our feet and touching the whole sole of our feet fully as we become drawn in, as we become grounded. Grounding is very important in order to live in this life and bringing the spiritual from above into the physical world. The energy enters our soul, comes to our toes. You can wiggle your toe a little bit to feel the energy, and starts traveling up, going toward the knees. It enters the knees and starts traveling further up, going toward the thighs. Travels further up and enters the hips. You can feel the energy. If you're a woman, you can feel it in your uterus. That's a very important element in your body and a very important organ. The energy goes further up and enters your stomach, your tummy. the comfort zone. Then the energy reaches the solar plexus, that middle point in your body that connects the lower and the upper. We're going to make 3 deep breaths here, because this is the space in our body which serves as a storage for all the energy that we're bringing into our life. And sometimes when we're in need of energy, when we need that resource, we can do some deep breathing and go to our solar plexus and take some energy from there that's stored from this meditation. The energy goes further up and enters our chest, our heart. Let's fill up our heart with love. Love for God and love for everything that God created. The energy goes further up and enters our throat. The throat is very narrow, because we have to be very careful what enters and what exits our throat. Then the energy enters our mouth. You can open up your mouth and do like a physical exercise of breathing in and out through your mouth. And by breathing through your mouth, you start feeling every little tiny molecule in your mouth and connect to it. Then we enter the nose. Breathe in through the nose and feel every little molecule in your nose and connect to it. We're traveling further up to our eyes. We have 2 eyes. When we breathe in, we feel every little molecule. We connect to it and we clear up a lot of things in our life. We start seeing clearly everything in our life, both on a physical level and on a more spiritual, energetic level. You can take a finger and point to that midpoint between your eyes, where some people refer to it as the third eye. Male individuals in Judaism actually put something specific called tefillin, which is a deep spiritual energy drawing. If you go circling where your third eye is, you can feel it. You can feel all the molecules and connect to it. Let's breathe in through the third eye and clear it up for us. Now the energy goes further up and enters the top of our head. That's where the highest sphera, the highest part of our head, of our body is, and it directly connects to the God Almighty. Now, we will go quickly through the third sphere, the 3 sphera that we actually describe in our picture as the 3 supernatural, 3 most spiritual sphirot that connect us to God Almighty. We will take 3 breaths, and each breath will correspond to each step. Imagine it as a as a half of a circle, like this diameter kind of thing that goes above your head, and go through it like step by step, like going higher and higher, one step on top of the other, on top of the other. And now we reach the highest possible plane. And we receive the name of God. And we're going to breathe in and connect to the God Almighty. Feel how every fiber of your body is filled out with that energy from God Almighty. And now we're going to go down. First, we're going down the 3 steps, the 3 sferot, taking 3 deep breaths. Entering our highest sphera, the top sphera, the purple color. And over here, we're going to go on 2 sides, to the right side and to the left side. We're going to go toward our ears. And when we breathe in, we're feeling every molecule of our ear. We're helping, the energy will help our ears to only hear what we need to hear in this world for our mission in life. Next, the energy is going down and entering our shoulders, the right shoulder and the left shoulder. When we breathe in, we feel every molecule of our shoulder. And we start feeling what's the strength. We're bringing energy to our shoulders so we can add more strength. So our shoulders can carry on all the necessary happiness and joy associated with our mission in life. The next thing we're going to do is we're bringing the energy down to our elbows and feeling the elbows as it's an important part that bends. Sometimes in life we need to bend, and that's important. The final and eternal step would be to bring the energy down to our hands. Feel it with your fingers and make a ball with your energy. Feel the ball getting smaller and then make it bigger. Expand your hands as much as possible to let all that energy you need in life to come in and bring it to ourselves. Now we will start drawing our picture. Open up your picture. And the first step we're going to draw, it will be making the very first sphera. It is the sphera of, the very first sphera, it's the sphera of Chokhmah. Chokhmah means knowledge. Chokhmah means knowledge, and we are going to, what I'm doing is I'm going over the pencil with my marker, and that's kind of making the sphera more visible both in my picture and in my life. I'm asking God Almighty to grant me the knowledge necessary in my life to bring in the necessary organization, to bring in the necessary resources in my life that I need to move on. What you can do further on is you can take the marker and go through all the sphera using neurographic line. And once you bring in the neurographic line on the sphera, you bring in the necessary energy. Remember, the line should not be pattern-like, okay? Make sure you follow your hand, but yet allow that energy inside of you to flow in naturally, even though you're going over this the line, right, the circular line. Allow it. You see how I'm doing all those ups and downs? Let it go in its own pattern, okay? What we can do quickly here now is we'll go over the line, and what I like to do is to go over the line and to curve out and to round off the intersection, because I want that energy of knowledge to come into my life and to be done so harmoniously. So it's nice and round. So it's nice and full of positive resource, you know, just like a circle around. And what we're doing today is what we started to do 3 weeks ago, which is bringing the concept of the Kabbalistic mandala. Mandala means the holy circle. And the circle, we discussed it numerous times already, has a very deep spiritual meaning in the Kabbalistic learning. And when we curve out, when we create a holy circle, we create a circular world, a world where everybody will be connected to God Almighty and going in circle, meaning going all the way around and replenishing itself, him and herself, continuously and constantly, and using the God's energy directly to do so. That's the world we strive to achieve. That's the world we're waiting for. That's what we pray for every time we pray for anything in the world. We pray and say, God, please bring this world to its ideal state. We would like to see happiness and joy in the world. Take away the war and then happiness and the stress and bring it in. And every time we draw our little, you know, it's my topic, right? Doesn't seem very global. Yet every time I bring, let's say in this case, organizations and happiness and structure and order in my life, what I'm really doing is I'm praying for the happiness and structure and organization to come into the world altogether. And that is our ultimate goal in life, right? To make the world a better place so that we all can live it and enjoy it, you know? So the world would be transcendental for all of us to enjoy. So we are circling, curving, rounding off everything and making sure that you see how the neurographic line over here seems like it's a part of the picture, but it seems to be like kind of going opposite of the circle, while on this side of the picture, it's connected to the circle. It's one whole with a circle, and that's what we're doing when we curve something out. We connect to it. We kind of create different boundaries, the boundaries that are stronger because they're connected together. You know, the boundaries that are like more firm and more fulfilling as a result. And that's what happens during this holiday of Passover. We're bringing organization, and that's why it's so important. You're going to see a lot of public, it's called public Seders. A lot of Jewish organizations hold public Seders when they invite everybody and anyone to come and be a part of the, you know, this public experience, this public organization, this Seder, this order that everybody goes through, and thus bring in that cosmic energy, the cosmic resource into their life by connecting to the cosmic energy that God Almighty brings in on that world, on that day to the world. So we're going and we're rounding everything off. And while rounding off, you can meditate and you can connect to the knowledge and say, please bring me the knowledge that I would like to possess and to contain and to conquer and to learn and to love. Remember that motivation we talked about? That's what we're looking for. Bring me the knowledge so I can be motivated to do things, to work more toward my mission in the world, to work more toward bringing more happiness and harmony and joy to the world, and thus connecting to the world on a more, you know, on a more spiritual, on a more transcendental, on a more connected level. And thus be a part of the world. You know, feel the pain of the world and feel the happiness of the world. For those of you who are very sensitive, just like I am, you probably know what it's like to feel the pain of the world. It's very hard. It's a big responsibility, and you don't always feel like doing it because it's so hard to carry the pain of the world. But if you connect to the resource, to the ultimate resource, which is God Almighty in the world, you will learn, you will get that extra strength necessary to bring you necessary resources to deal with the pain. Okay, so we drew now the Chokhmah, which is knowledge. The next Sfirah we're bringing in, remember, this is a part of 3 matzah. Now, when we talk about the Passover, why are the 3 points significant? So the first outer circle that we drew now is Chokhmah, which means knowledge, which relates to the idea that, you know, in order, when we're born pure and uninflated. This first circle is the matzah, the actual specific physical matzah that we eat on the Passover. And by eating matzah, which is flat, most of the time it doesn't have taste. It has no taste to it. It's flat and it's crunchy, which means sometimes it can be sharp, you know. I don't know about you, but like the first night, the next day my mouth kind of hurt because it's so unused to eating so much, you know, kind of cracker, kind of sharp kind of food, which is what we eat a lot of matzah. So this is important to understand. When we come into this world, we come flat. We have nothing puffing us up. And that flatness is who we are on the inside. That's the deeper knowledge that we have. The next step we have, so this is matzah. The next step we eat is an important part of the Seder, is a maror. Maror, maror refers to bitter herbs. And bitter herbs is a bina, deep, global, deep knowledge. You know, this is the knowledge, deep understanding. Deep understanding. Sometimes to understand something deep means you see the bitterness of something. You see how not everything in the world is nice and puffy. Sometimes it has to be harsh and bitter. Sometimes, I like this allegory, sometimes the seed goes inside the deep, dark, moist, not always welcoming soil. And then it feels bitter. You know, you lay down in that soil and you do nothing. You don't know what to do until you start growing and you start making roots and you start coming out of the earth and seeing the sun and the warmth and becoming a beautiful plant or a beautiful tree. And that's, but in order to grow, first you have to go and have the knowledge, have the deep understanding, experience somewhat of a bitterness. And the third important aspect in the Seder it's called Pesach. Pesach is, as translated into English, it's one of the best translations, means Passover. That was the part of the Passover story when God went through the land of Egypt and punished all the firstborn. And the people who believed in God and who put a special sign on their doorpost, they were mostly Jews, and there were, of course, some Egyptians who also believed in God, who started believing in the Jewish God. And they put a special message on their doorpost, and God passed over those houses. Those houses were not counted, and they were not punished when the firstborns were punished in the Egyptian land. So Pesach means Passover, and that refers to the third Sfirah, which is the Sfirah of Da'at. Da'at means wisdom. When you have the knowledge and you combine it with a deep understanding, you become wise. You gain wisdom, and you start seeing things in a different way. And in a certain way, you start passing over certain stumbles in your life. You start passing over, you don't have to go through all the necessary lessons in your life. Sometimes if you have a deep understanding and deep meaning and deep knowledge, you can become wise and step over it. Go further. You can step, it also refers to stepping over certain steps. You know how kids like to go up and they skip some steps? That's what it is. You step over a certain step, you jump over the step, you go further up. You don't dwell, you don't focus on one thing in your life. You go further up, and you go further up, and you reach the highness necessary in your world. And that's the significance of the sphera called Da'at, wisdom. Okay? So what I would like to do now is let's go over the second circle, which is a sphera of Bina, deep understanding. And what we're going to do is, you can do it two ways. You can do the way I did it the first time, making a circle first and then putting a neural line over it. Or what I'm going to try to do now, just going through the neural line over the pencil circle that I drew. If I feel that it's not enough, I will always can add a circle to it. Yeah, I feel like I need to add the circle first because I like that combination of the circle and the neurographic line. Okay. So draw the circle, the second circle, and bring in the Bina, the deep understanding what's happening in your life. Now go over it with your neurographic line and bring in the energy of that sphera. Allow your hand to go over, yet do not allow it to make some pattern-like drawing, okay? Now, we'll do exactly what we did last time. We go over it with I take a thinner marker, and I like to circle everything out and kind of meditate what this Bina means to me and ask God, please, with all the knowledge that you give me the meaning behind it. Give me the understanding so I can relate to it, so I can bring it, so I can better and fully incorporate it in my life, right? I mean, we all remember when we were in school. I mean, I have kids, I have kids who are in high school. I have a child who's in high school now, and I have children who are in elementary school, and the way they learn, you can see if the knowledge is not related to them, if they cannot connect to the knowledge, they cannot fully bring it into their lives. And I just recently wrote about it on my Facebook. My son, exactly a week ago, my daughter, who is in second grade, I was cleaning up some papers and I was asking her. Oh, my son was actually cleaning up. And I said, oh, that's Esther's paper. Ask her. And he's like, oh, Esther, do you need this paper? And she said, no, I don't need to learn this anymore. I already passed the test. We had a test already. I'm not going to learn it anymore. Just throw it away. And my son, who is in the 10th grade, told her something that I was like, ooh, that's an interesting turn of events. He told her, Esther, you don't always need a test to learn something. And he was like rushing. We were preparing for Shabbat. And he said, remind me to talk to you about it later, how not everything you learn has to be for the test, but rather learning has to relate to the knowledge that you gain and to the fact that you enjoy the learning. And when he said that, I had that proud, in Hebrew, we call that nachat, like that deep yearning happiness. It's like this Jewish mother's term. I had this nachat in my head thinking, oh, there you go. My son is growing up, right? And that's what it refers to, that deep meaning that you attach, the deep understanding that you attach to any knowledge you obtain, that you say, you know what, this is not just learning, how we all learn like physics or mathematics, unless one of you is a mathematician or a physician or a physics professor that's watching the video. Most of the time, all this knowledge we always felt like was so unrelated to our life. We never really focused. I actually personally loved chemistry and physics also. I'm a very mathematical person, and it always related to me. So, but most of the time, students, they don't focus on those classes because they feel it's so unrelated to them. And this is why it's so important to attach a deep meaning of anything you learn in life. Try to understand if God gave you this knowledge, How does it relate to you? Where would it benefit you? Where can it benefit others in your life? Is it possible that you are just a person who transmits this knowledge to somebody else? Because sometimes that does happen. And in that case, we share with the world, like what I'm doing with you today. I love Neurographica. But at a certain point, I realized that I would like to share it with the world. I don't want to hover it, like a hen sitting on top of the eggs. I don't want to hide it. I want to share it because this is a resource that God gave to the world. And it's so important to share it with the world. So that's an important part. And that's what we're asking for when we are curving out all the unnecessary corners and say, God, please bring in this deep understanding in the way that's not sharp, in the way that's round and comfortable, because round circle is a sign, is a shape of comfort and love and joy. Here we go. Now, the next shape we're going to bring into our picture is the Sphira of wisdom, the At. Okay, we combine two circles, and the third circle in the combination. Okay, there's a circle. Now I'm going to add some energy by adding a neurographic line to it. Now remember, the more peaky your line is, the more energy you bring in. But that could also be very peaky energy, meaning very somewhat dangerous. So if you're not the kind of person who's very energetic, try to add more calm waves into your neurographic line. Okay, I added the line. The circle gets smaller and smaller. And what I'm going to do now, while drawing the circle, I just had an interesting insight into all of our circles, and I will be sharing it with you as soon as I will finish curving everything out. And that's related to exactly what I just drew. When I drew the neurographic line, I just gained some wisdom into what we're doing, into exactly this topic that I'm exploring, the three matzo circles relating to the three sfirot, and how do we bring it into our life. And I started thinking, and it always amazes me how there is it's a much bigger subject on its own, but there are 10 sfirot. But when you look and you start studying, what you discover is that in actuality, there are 11 sfirot. So the 11th sphira is actually the sphira of Da'at that was never fully realized in the world. There is an opinion. There are different opinions about this. So they say it was never fully realized in this world. And it was when Adam ate from the forbidden fruit, the food of from the tree of knowledge. What he did is he kind of spoiled that sphira, because he kind of, without getting the deeper, he took the knowledge, but he didn't wait to gain the full understanding. And he was so rushing to get this sphira of da'at, the wisdom, that he rushed to taste the fruit before it ripe. And as a result, we are now dealing with the fact that we have to experience both good and bad before eternally, going to the ultimate goodness. And a lot of times when sfirot are, the way I explained to you, the scheme of sfira, the concept, instead of that, we only say the first sfira is keter, which means crown, the highest. Then we say chokhmah and bina, but we don't mention the sfira of that, because the dat was not fully realized, so we don't consider it to be a full sfira. Which is, as you saw in my scheme, I connected it together with the keter. That's why I didn't draw it separately. So I want to tell you that now, while drawing this, so when you talk about sfirot, you either bring in the 10 sfirot with keter and then chokhmah bina, or you hold on the keter, because keter is like a super sphira, it's separate. and then you bring in Chokhmah Bina Da'at, okay? No Keter in your scheme, but rather just Chokhmah Bina Da'at, which is what I did now. And then I started realizing that we can also go in a different way. Actually, I'm so excited about it because we discussed it yesterday with my students, and I just had this insight that they were looking for. They wanted to bring in that keter, and I was explaining to them that da'at is an important sfira that we need to bring into the Seder. Now I just had an understanding how we can bring the da'at in. Okay? I will relate to you now. And by the way, the topic of Adam eating is completely directly related to the holiday of Passover. And I will actually be discussing it a little further today. Okay, so what happens here, right? Remember how we had 1, 2, 3 circles? Now we're going to bring in the 4th circle. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to allow you to switch up. Oh, I need a different marker for this. I want my circle to be very, very nice and dark. Okay, so what happens here is that that I am going to switch this around a little bit. Watch me, okay? So what I'm going to do now is that the outer circle is the circle of Keter. The next circle will be the circle of Chokhmah, okay? And we're going to relate this later on because this 4th circle inside is the circle that we bring in later as a sphira. It's the circle of Malchut. Malchut is the very last sphira. It's usually on the very bottom. What we were planning to do is go through all the 6 objects and then bring in the last circle, the last sphira of Malchut, and that would be the 4th inner circle. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a different meaning about how we can go about the sphirot. So because Malchut is directly related to the sphira of Keter. So the sphira of Keter, the outer circle, is the Seder plate, okay? This is Keter, then this is Chokhmah, Bina, and then the last one is going to be Da'at, and it's okay to bring in Da'at here. I'll tell you why. Because then we're going through the Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Od, Yisod, and then we're going to go back to the outer layer and make it Malchut, because the outer layer is the Seder plate that holds everything together, the 3 matzot and the 6 ingredients. So that's a different way to do it, and that's actually, I'm so happy for that wisdom that I got, where I can combine all the sfirot without losing any single one. Yet, it's important to only have 10 circles, Physically, we should only have 10 circles of the sfirot. You cannot have 11 circles because, like I said, there's a lot of Kabbalistic meaning into that, which is very, very deep. And the more I will be explaining it to you, the less I will be able to explain it to you, so to say. So let's go through the last circle. So again, we're revamping our sfirot. The first one we're going to bring is Keter. Then we have Chokhmah. If you want to keep the way you said it before, that's fine too. You can do Chokhmah, Bina, Da'at. I'm doing Keter, Chokhmah, Bina, Da'at. I'm going to put the neurographic line through the Da'at line, and bringing the energy into this deeper inner, kind of bringing myself double wisdom. And now we're going to curve everything out. We don't have that much time. As much as I try to rush up today and bring you, necessary, so we may go a little bit over the 2 hours, but that's okay. If you're rushing, you can watch the video. I always feel like I am rushing, but I feel like so important to give you all that knowledge that I'm giving you, all the information, because it's directly related to everything we talk about. And I feel like if I don't give you that piece of information, you will be missing out. So that's it. Okay, so curving everything out, kind of meditating. Breathing in, this is an important process when we curve things out, breathing in. And by the way, I just had this feeling where I want to stop curving out, and that's a normal feeling. This is a resistance talking to me and pulling me out, which means that the process is going, the transformation is happening. And when transformation happens, the first thing your body and your psyche and your mind goes through is resistance. Try to resist the changes that come into your life, because the mind is so used to the fact that that change may be something unpleasant. There's a famous psychological term called learned helplessness. When a person meets a lot of obstacles in the life, they just at a certain point just give up and stop fighting. That's called learned helplessness. When people have something that happens to them not pleasant throughout their life a lot, they start being afraid of the change. They start thinking that every change will bring something negative to it. And that's what we're trying to transform here through Neurographica, by bringing in a lot of positive changes and teaching ourselves to be happy and open to change, and to learn that change is good. Change is progress. Sometimes change is bitter. Remember, we talked about the concept of bitter before? Yeah, but that bitterness gives us the necessary deep understanding of why things happen in life. What can we do to bring in the necessary harmony and positiveness? Yet, deep inside your mind, you often start to focus still on the fact that maybe change will be something not good for you. And as thus, you try to avoid change. That's how Neurographica is so revolutionary, because it allows you to bring change without, strong kind of physical concept, because all you do is just draw, right? And your subconscious and unconscious is quite full by your just drawing, that it doesn't really bother you, because what are you doing? You're not doing any change, you're just drawing, right? Okay, now we drew the 4 circles, and this is what's going to happen next. We are going to add 6 circles, okay? The 6 circles are the next sfirot, okay? Remember, Keter, Chokhmah, Bina, Da'at, and now we start the 7 physical sfirot, okay? 6 of them are the ingredients. The first sfira is the sfira of bone. Bone means the sfira of chesed, zeroah. This is the sfira of zeroah. If you want to, what you can do is what I did yesterday with my students. You can add an element of removal of limitations, which is you make a throw, right? Remember how we did it last time? You put a marker down, you scream, and then you curve everything out. And this way you release the inhibition necessary for this specific resource, okay? So that's the sfira of chesed. Chesed means kindness. The next sfira I will bring in, I'm just going to draw the circles, and then I'm going to color it in. What I'm going to do is add, of course, a neurographic line to it, and bringing the energy to the sfira, okay? Add the line to the chesed, and curve them out. And by curving out, oh boy, I feel nauseous. I just started to, you breathe in and you feel your physical sensation. My hand is shaking. Oh boy, I have a lot of resistance. Now how I had that inside, I think my mind kind of caught up to what I'm doing, that I'm trying to transform my life. And a lot of resistance have surfaced up. that is manifested through my body. Okay, so what I did is I added. Now I'm putting the Sfira of Gvura, and I'm also going over it with Neurographic line, adding necessary energy. Okay. And while doing the curving out, as usually, follow the pattern of, not the physical pattern, but rather the psychological pattern of listening to your body by breathing in and feeling the sensation of discomfort in your body. Yeah, I feel nauseous, for example. I feel so nauseous. My ears are like burning. They're like on flame, you know, they're like bursting out. Whoa. Okay, now listen to your thoughts. What are you thinking about? And I realize I'm thinking about something that happened. There was an incident that happened recently, and I realize this picture is bringing it up. And I'm so still like thinking and trying to figure out, resolve it, so to say, and figure out how to go over it. Okay. The next sphera we're bringing it in is a sphera of Tiferet. Tiferet usually means beauty. So Chesed in this case means it usually means kindness, but at the Seder case, Chesed means stretched arm. God has stretched the arm to Bnei Israel, which means the Jewish nation, and took it out of Egypt, right? There's a famous allegory. How did God take the Jewish nation out of Egypt? By outstretching his arm and kind of picking them up, where the word Passover comes in, and taking them out. And that's what the first Sfira Chesed means. The second Sfira Gvura, which usually means boundaries, in this case refers to the actual food of the Beitzah. Beitzah is egg. Egg, as we all know, is a symbol of rebirthing, right? Eggs at a certain point is a symbol of mourning. We eat the egg to remind us that we don't have the temple anymore. But eggs also gives us comfort because egg is a symbol of rebirthing. We look at the egg and we know that we will be reborn. We will prevail. The temple will be built again when Messiah comes, God willing. That's what we think about. The third sphera in this inside circle is the sphera of Tiferet. Tiferet usually means beauty, but in this case, Tiferet means empathy. Tiferet refers to the food item called bitter herbs. Bitter herbs, when we eat bitter herbs, we're not trying to kind of bring bitterness in our life now. What's the point of that? We passed the slavery already. We're not in Egypt. But what we're trying to do is when we eat the bitterness, and I often eat like that horseradish that I talked about, and I literally have tears in my eyes. And I would like to tell you that those tears in my eyes is what physically connects me to how my ancestors felt many years ago being slaves in Egypt. And that's an interesting part. This is what we relate to. When we talk about empathy, we talk about relating to somebody, something they go through. And we're here trying to relate to the Jewish nation, the pre-freedom time, back when they were still slaves, right? So let's bring in the energy of empathy into the sphera of Tiferet. Tiferet is the combination and the product of Chesed, which means kindness, and Gvura, which means boundaries. So Gveret means beauty, ultimate beauty, you know, that ultimate, you know, like goodness in the world when you combine something that's kind and something that's strict, you know. You have like the best of both worlds, kind of to say. So I'm curving everything out, and I realize that, yeah, I have still a little nauseousness And other sensation, I felt a very strange, unusual, I must tell you this, it's an unusual sensation in my body. Following my thoughts, and also we need to follow our emotions, okay? Those three planes: thoughts, emotions, physical discomfort, okay? What do I feel emotionally? Emotionally, at this point, honestly, today, now, not today, I was absolutely fine until I started to drawing the picture. Drawing this picture kind of brought up a lot of things to the surface that I personally, let me tell you this, not so happy to be experiencing now. Brought me some discomfort, psychological discomfort, some I'm, not sure about certain things in my life. And it brought that up, even though I was so sure that I am okay with it already. But apparently not. Apparently it's still surfacing up. I didn't work it out. And, when you curve something out, you're really transforming that issue. Yeah, I feel the chest pain now in my body. Okay. So this is the third sphera. The next sphera we're going to go to is the sphera of the lower three circles. Okay, it's the sphera of Netzach. Netzach means usually victory. In this case, at the Seder, Netzach refers to Charoset, which is that mixture we talked about, the apple, nuts, and the wine. And one of the explanations is that mixture refers to like clay. And clay is what the Jewish nation used to make bricks. And then they use those bricks, and then they would use straw to make like clay to make bricks. And then they would use straw to make clay. And out of that substance of clay, they would build those pyramids that, sadly enough, every night would be destroyed so that the Jews would work on building more pyramids again. So it was like really work that had no meaning. And that was one of the strongest reasons why the Jews felt oppressed. Because at least when you work towards something that has a meaning, even if you're made kind of, it's still oppressive, but it's not as essential, because a human being is here to create something. And when you don't create anything, when every time your work is destroyed, it brings, an eternal despair. So this is a sphera of endurance. When we build something, every time they would make that clay, they would make something strong. It's a sphera, it's a symbol of endurance, of strength. And we want to bring that in. Let's draw a neurographic line and bring in the resource of endurance and strength. Okay. Now we're going to curve it out and start feeling, okay? Remember, every time we put a neurographic line, we'll bring that energy of that sphera into our life and closer to our topic. Okay, now, again, we're going to curve it out and focus on the 3 points in our body. The way our body feels, the way our mind thinks, and the way we feel emotions, okay? I feel nauseous, and again, that strange sensation in my body, which I'm wondering what it is. But it's somewhere situated in the middle of my body. That's so strange. What do I feel? I feel this mixture of like anxiety and what am I going to achieve? What am I going to do? And what we can also do is what I did yesterday. With each sphera that we're drawing, what we're going to do is we're going to associate it with each point in our list, right? And thus, by bringing in the neurographic line, we bring the energy of that resource into that point in our life. For example, I'll give you an example. Like right now, I just realized when I was curving out and thinking, and I realized my anxiety was about my professional life. So let's say this sphera would be associated with, so all the 6 sphirot, not the bigger circle, but rather the 6 sphirot, the 6 circles in our picture. We're going to take our list and look at it, what each refers to. For example, chesed, what does it refer to? Chesed is kindness, right? Or in this case, we talked about that not just kindness, but like comforting, like stretching your hand out and helping somebody out, which is what God did with the Jewish nation. And I'm thinking, what would I like to bring in? Which point for my list would I like to bring into that first picture, right? And I realize it's the point number here, the organizing my time, allowing myself to go to sleep on time and to wake up on time. And that will be this chesed. Gvura, which usually means boundary, in this case means rebirthing. Where am I going to give so much boundaries to something that something new is going to emerge from it? Yes, I realize that's this one. Yearning to do stuff. That's going to be number 2. That's gvura. Okay, this is chesed. Gvura. Okay, that's number 2. Now, tiferet is beauty, but in this case, it also means empathy. Where am I going to be empathetic? Which point am I picking to be empathetic to? And I realize it's a praying. I'm going to allow myself, give myself time to adjust my schedule to my regular praying time. And that will be the tiferet, the beauty, the empathy, where I'm going to allow myself to feel empathic. So the 4th, what we did now was Sphira of Netzach, which is endurance and strength. Now, which point in my list would I like to give endurance and strength to? It's the point of the okay, I'm choosing the money. I wanted to choose professional purpose, but I'm choosing the money part. So my money part will be number 4, which is Netzach, endurance and strength. The next Sphira we're bringing in is the Sphira of Od. Od usually means humility, and in this case, we refer to the vegetable on our plate. Vegetable is as humility as possible, right? It grows directly from earth, right? It doesn't usually reach high. And it's the Sphira of Od, which means humility. Okay, let's bring in that Sphira into our picture. We can look at our points and think, what point do we feel like we need more humility into? And I realize that's my professional life. Because I do believe that humility is very much related in the professional life. You have to learn how to be humble, kind of, very very kind of knowing that you're here not because you need to show something, or in this case show off, but rather to show something to others, to teach something, but not where you are like this important object, but rather you're just a vessel. And that's what Sfirot are, right? They're vessels filled with light. And that's an allegory to a human being, because we are vessels. Our body is a vessel, and the soul inside of us is that light that fills up the vessel. And I realize that if I will be maybe modesty, the greatest prophet on earth was considered to be Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu. And he was also considered to be the most modest person in the whole wide world. Something I want to relate to you. So being modest doesn't mean you don't achieve stuff in life, but rather it means that you know that you don't need to overstep your boundaries. And I just realized that it's directly related to something that I've been thinking about when I was curving out all the other sfirot. I just had like kind of an answer to something that was bothering me, something that was like on my mind. So this is a great resource. I just had that, insight again, where I was able to achieve like some kind of da'at, wisdom, while curving out. Okay. Okay. So the last shira we're going to write down on the Seder plate is item called chazaret. Chazaret is when you make a sandwich, like I mentioned, with lettuce, maror, which is like horseradish, extremely bitter and like really spicy, and hot, and the matzah. And that's the sfira of Yesod. Yesod means usually foundation. In this case, Yesod means bonding, connecting. What we do is we connect the matzah, right? The idea of a flat bread, of uninflated, ego, remove the ego and be who you are. The idea of a lettuce, which is like, it's like a vegetable, but it can sometimes be plain and blah, but it's nice and crunchy. And the idea of a maror, which is bitter, that deep knowledge of something that can sometimes be bitter. But when you combine it together, I want to tell you, it's delicious. Oh, and you also add charoset to this. It's amazing. Charoset is just, that taste, that paste, that combination of things. You add it, and it makes all the connection. It makes everything taste so good, amazingly good. And that's what it is. Sometimes when you combine things, matzah here refers, remember we talked about, to our soul, which is uninflated. It's just soul. It's who we are when we're born. It's a naked baby, no clothes necessary. And maror refers to bitterness, and charoset refers to that that strength, that endurance. When we combine all of it, we connect to God Almighty. We connect together all those stuff, all those ingredients, and we go to the next level. We kind of go beyond already. We kind of go above. We start gaining new insight into something. And that's the sfira we're doing now. Look at your list. Think where you can bring bonding, connecting to something in a way which will be as a foundation for rebirthing, for something new in your life happening, for you rebirthing in your life. Right, and I realized that would be that whole organizing my house, having a cleaning lady come in constantly, and me not having to always worry that I am not enough to do all of it together. So that will be my number 6 yesod, which is foundation or connecting or bonding. Okay, let's bring in that energy, the resource, to our point. Oh, there you go. What a beautiful one. Realize that I'm not right marker. Let's make it darker. Okay, I'll do it over again. Okay, so let's go over and curve out. We are almost done with drawing our resources. And I look at the time. I think what we're going to do today is what we do usually. We will finish the class and you will get to color it on your own. You're welcome to post a picture in our group, Neurographica Americas. I will be so happy to see it. Very excited. I want to tell you this one last thing that I promise I will tell you. The story of Adam, how it relates to the story of Passover. So there is a concept called tikkun in Kabbalah, which means improvement, which on a deep level means every person comes into this world as a tikkun for something, as an improvement for some concept or for some person or for some part that happened in the world. And in that time, something radical happened and it needs improvement, which is the reason why we human beings come into the world all together. We come into the world to improve the world. And every time we do something that's not so right, the world kind of skews toward the wrong end. Every time we do something right, we're not just doing something right for ourselves, for the current affairs, so to say, for the current world, but rather we're improving everything for the world in the past and in the future. Because as we know, time is of essence in this world, but in other worlds, spirituality is transcendental, right? Something that's spiritual will have no expiration point, so to say. It will be forever, so to say. And that's what happens. When you do something, you improve something on a spiritual level, and then you improve not just the present, but rather the past and the future. It's one of those sci-fi stories or movies where, like Back to the Future kind of thing, where you do something in the future and it kind of influences your past and your present, and the opposite true, right? You do something in the past and it influences your present and your future. Kind of same thing. We do something in the present, but that present is always a past for something, in the future for something else. So always remember that everything you do is transcendental. Everything you do is completely related to something in the past and in the future. So everything you do is like a tikkun, an improvement. So the Seder specifically refers to the tikkun of Adam. When Adam, the first human being invented by God, created by God, when he ate from that tree of good and evil, from that tree of knowledge, and by Adam, by the way, I do refer to Eve as well, Chava, right, to his wife. She was actually the one who tasted it first. Yeah, let's not lose some perspective here. So a lot of things I am today, I'm not touching much about it, but I'm usually talk a lot about the feminine aspects of Judaism and Kabbalistic concepts. So in this case, this is a Kabbalistic concept to us. If you're a woman watching it, I want you to think about how women bring in the tikkun, the improvement to the world. And at the Seder, what happens is that the tikkun, the improvement, happens on two levels. One level is everything involved in the Seder, did you notice, is food. The 3 matzot, then the 6 ingredients, except one thing. One thing is not food, and that's the plate, the Seder plate. So the food that we eat at the Seder is a tikkun for the food that Adam ate. It's a tikkun, it's the improvement for that fruit that Adam ate that was ripe, that was not ripe yet. So every time we eat at the Seder, which means we're eating at the right time, we're eating at the exact time that is told to us, and it was not told to us, by anybody except the God Almighty, because that Seder is, like I talked about, a cosmic energy, cosmic change in the world, in the universe. And every time we eat at the right order, we bring in the improvement of what Adam and Eve did, Adam and Chava did. We improve that. We're kind of taking that whole story of eating, from the tree and improving it. We're saying, Chava, wait, you're going to eat it at the right time. We're eating we're eating the matzah at the right time. We're eating the maror at the right time. We're eating one of those ingredients, the egg, or the karpas, the vegetable, the charosat, the chazeret, the sandwich. When we connect, you can't just eat the karpas or the egg first, or the bitter herbs. You cannot just eat out of order for that specific reason. You need to improve the world on the deep level, the way it was brought into the chaos through food, through specific functioning of the mouth. Remember when we did the meditation today? I told you, open your mouth and feel every little molecule. That's what we're doing. When we eat that matzah, you feel every little molecule of your mouth. When you eat that maror, that bitter herb, that horseradish, you definitely feel every little fiber of your mouth, right? And this is what I would like to bring in. And there is a second tikkun that happens during the Passover Seder. The second tikkun is a tikkun of talking. Another something we do with our mouths that doesn't always do the right thing, right? We often try to do the right thing, but we're not. And there's a saying that I heard that something that everybody can do better at is less talking. And it's true. We can all focus more on our speech. We can all focus more on our inner self. Remember where I talked about the throat? The throat is so small for a reason. It's narrow. Watch what's going into that throat and what comes out of that throat. And it refers to both your mental and spiritual and emotional. Well, more like mental and spiritual, because words are more mental and spiritual and often emotional too, right? But also it's the food. What enters our mouth and what leaves our mouth. How do we eat food? Do we focus on mindfulness when we eat? Do we say, in Judaism, it refers to the bracha, the blessing we say on the food, right? Every time we eat something, we don't just put it in our mouth, we focus, we stop for that multi-second. We, people like, if you're not Jewish, like, you don't know, they always like wonder, what am I doing? Like I mumble something with my mouth and then I eat. But, what I do is I stop for that multi-second and I focus on the food I eat. I right away notice if I'm eating an apple, where's the apple growing? It grows on the tree. Now I'm going to say a blessing. Thank you, God, for giving me the fruit of the tree. That's mindfulness. This is what mindfulness is all about. And that's a tikkun of the food, okay? So during the Seder, we're not just rebirthing. We're not just improving the world. We're improving that backbone, that main thing that brought the world into the chaos, eating from that tree of knowledge. And every time we go through the Seder, we go through all the ingredients and eating it through the right order. And then there is a part in the Seder that's called Magid. Magid refers to the storytelling. Magid means actually storytelling in Hebrew. And there's that lengthy part. I know a lot of people go to it, the oy vey part. This is the longest part of the Seder when everybody sit down and read the lengthy explanation what happened in the land of Egypt. And there's a reason for that. I want to tell you this, so maybe it will help you during that time of the Seder when you sit and think, oh boy, the lengthy part comes. For you to understand that every time you read this lengthy part, you do the tikkun, you do the improvement, where the words that are coming out of your mouth are the most appropriate words in the world. Because the whole point of Magid is telling how God proved to the world through the 10 commandments, through the 10 punishments, 10 plagues, how God proved to the world that there is a God in the world, and how the Jewish nation accepted the sovereignty of God and came out of Egypt, which was the epitome of, the defiance of God. And we saw that with the way Pharaoh reacted to all the 10 plagues. It was sheer disbelief and saying there is no God. There is no order, because God is order. We believe that everything in the world is order. Everything is for a reason, for a purpose. And that's where we come in. I'm going to finish now with you here because time is here. What I would advise you to do is add the color, add some more neurolines, okay? Like I'm going to give you an example. What you can do is you can keep your circle enacted and don't go outside the white lines. And do what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the middle and go on all the sides like this. Go through all the six sfirot. And by the way, the seventh sfirah, right, the one we talked about, is the seventh sfirah is Malchut. And Malchut goes back to the outside. It's a Keter. Okay, just letting you know. And what you can do is you can actually draw yourself in the middle here. Bring yourself in the picture and give a different meaning to the Seder plate. Where are you at the Seder plate? Every time you go through the Seder, who are you here? Where are you in this world? Who are you in this world? Every time we go through the Seder, we'll go through the rebirthing, okay? So you can also add like I mentioned before, triangles. Triangles are very important. Triangles are movement, okay? I know, Aviva, you asked me for the meaning of triangles. I don't usually talk about triangles, but in the Seder, in order to move forward, in order for the world to grow and move forward, we're bringing triangles. We're doing it in a safe and neurographic way. You can either create two triangles like this, or what I would do is, right, we have the 6 circles, and I'm sure you guys thought of the same thing. Create the Star of David. This is what I'm going to do in my picture. Okay? I'm going to connect the triangles like this. And of course, put the neurographic line through them. And very important, curve them out. So important, okay? You want to make sure your triangles come into this world safe and sound without unnecessary sharpness, unnecessary bitterness. Let's bring in the world in a harmonious and safe way. Let's recreate the world. Let's recreate ourselves, recreate the world, and be reborn through the Seder night. I'm going to wish you a very happy Passover for those of you who celebrate. For those of you who celebrate other holidays, happy holidays to you, because remember, every single holiday, like the major religions, Christianity and Islam, like recently there was a holiday of Nowruz in Islam, which means spring, rebirthing, right? The same concept. All the concepts come from this main concept, the main Kabbalistic concept of rebirthing. Okay? So spring is a time of rebirth. Spring is a time of reordering your life, reorganizing, repurposing it. And that's what I am wishing you success in: rebirth, repurposing, and let's achieve that state where we enjoy and love and yearn for life and yearn to improve the world. I'm wishing you a wonderful day ahead. I'm wishing you a beautiful Shabbat Shalom, which could also mean a wonderful weekend for you. Tomorrow is Friday. Happy day. And I'm wishing you a wonderful, wonderful holiday of Pesach, Passover next week, and a wonderful holiday of your choosing, whatever you celebrate. Just wonderful spring to you. Thank you for joining us at Neurographica Americas. Goodbye. Happy Passover, Tina.